Know thyself. Do we really know who and what we are? Maybe what we are, maybe not. But who we are? We're conscious of so little, aware of so little of what makes us tick. Because we have ultimately a soul that's a part of God. Because that soul is a part of God. Well, God is unknowable on many levels. So likewise, we are unknowable. What really makes me tick? Is it my thoughts that I think that really makes me tick? On some level, that's true. But then there's this subconscious that's way beyond my emotional makeup that I may not be truly aware of. My perspective on how my mind works, and how it perceives. How do you come to really know? Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We're continuing in understanding the ways of the Creator within creation. In order to have a more developed relationship with God, which in turn then will give us a much clearer understanding of who we are, we need to understand the power of Creator within creation. So we know by the human condition, there are 5 degrees of separation. We have our intelligence, we have our feelings, that both are beyond language. Where does language begin? From our feelings, the thoughts that we have. We think in a language. In our feelings, it's beyond the language. So our mind, our perspective feeds our heart on what we feel. It gives us the understanding. So from 1 to 2, from the heart, whatever we feel strongly, we think. 3rd degree separation. And then we have our speech, right, which is a language that is now verbalized. It's much more powerful, the language in our mind. It's now contracted, condensed, to be brought into our speech. And then finally, action. And we understand that action, compared to our intelligence, very much removed. Not the value of your actions, the capacity to act, right? Like, I just picked up a book, right? The capacity to pick up a book compared to speak, no comparison. Picking up a book is a simple mechanical action, as opposed to being able to speak something that would be sensible is a much more refined skill of the soul. Thought is even much more refined skill, right? Not random thoughts, but cogitated, mindful thoughts with intention is much greater. And then, of course, emotions is even much greater. Emotions beyond language. It's the source of the language that we think, but it's far and above and beyond. And then, of course, our intelligence. That's in the human makeup. By God, God is so infinitely beyond that his divine intelligence, that he is infinitely beyond it, it's comparable to action, right? It's comparable to action. By us, it's 5 degrees of distinction. By God, right? In other words, intelligence, chachma, wisdom, divine, right? Our wisdom is far removed. It's much more sublime, much transcends totally the power of acting, right? Not the value of the act, but the capacity that the soul can do an action, right? A little baby goes to something, grabs a little red ball, because, right? That's an action. That's a very simple motor skill compared to the capacity to speak. And that's why a child can't speak right away. And to have thought, a meditated thought, a purposeful thought, right? That's even much more difficult. Emotions is a much more sublime place where that comes from, of who you are and what you are. Emotions here, we mean not what you are aware of, because that's in your thoughts already. That's thoughts. Emotions meaning this, the source of that thought. And you feel the emotion, but the emotion is beyond that, much greater, much more, very removed from it. So much so that it's not even got any language to it, right? It's like the two basic emotions are and right? Those are not language, beyond language. Well, that will then will come into the thought and give you a language of what that is. But in its core, it's beyond that. And why is something and something is It's because of how you perceive it in your mind, which is far removed and beyond that feeling. Okay? That's the way it is in the human condition. Know thyself. You didn't even know that. Oh, well, yeah, we taught it yesterday, so maybe. God, the source, his divine perspective, his divine intelligence, where by us, to actions, 5 degrees of separation, by God, the action and the intelligence are the same thing before the Ein Sof. He's totally removed. And not 5 degrees of separation, but myriads, infinite separation. Because the essence of God is totally no thing, nondescript, no adjective to describe. When you say chachma, that's an adjective to describe a power of the soul, that it can have the power of ingenuity, of a flash of an idea. And then you bring it into Bina, then you develop it further, the building blocks of that idea. That's all a description of some form. That's a thing already. But God is no thing. So therefore, when the thing of divine wisdom, it's like he's infinitely removed from it. And equally as he is infinitely removed from an action of God. Right? So the question is, then why would he give this metaphor of our 5 degrees of separation in order to speak about God and how he is infinitely separated? I mean, the metaphor, doesn't fit. So the Alter Rebbe says, it's because in the end, we want a relationship with God. To have a relationship with God, we have to be able to relate on some level to what it means, God and his divine wisdom, his divine kindness, his divine compassion, right? So the only way we can relate to the relationship he has with the two, right? Meaning qualities of God versus the essence of God, is by understanding me and the qualities that I have. So with me, there's 5 degrees of separation. I get that. And I understand how my intelligence is so far removed from my power of action, right? So much lower is the power of action. Again, not the value of the action, the capacity to do an act is so far removed from the capacity for me to have intelligence. We get that. So now infinitely more removed is God, the essence of God, from his intelligence. But I need some kind of reference point to relate to that idea. So the only one I can have is within me, even though it breaks down, right? I need that metaphor, exactly. So at least I can appreciate a little bit, even though it's so far beyond us, to truly understand and appreciate that. In other words, let's put it in other terms. To say that God is beyond his divine intelligence is actually a joke. It's like a joke. Why? It's similar to saying that, you know, this idea I can't grab it in my hands. Anybody who would hear that, what would they do? Laugh. It's a joke. Because ideas cannot be grasped in a hand. They could go grasped in your mind, but not in your hand. So he said, well, I can't grasp what? You can grasp a Kleenex box in your hand. You can grasp a pen in your hand, not an idea. That you can grasp in your mind, but not in your hand. So if you say, I didn't grasp it in my hand, well, whoever hears that was going to laugh. It's the same thing as to say, oh, God is, God and his intelligence, he's beyond his intelligence. Even to say he's beyond means that there's a capacity to be grasped by it. Can't even say God's beyond divine intelligence. That's a joke. Because intelligence is a thing, and God is no thing. God has no adjective to describe him. Nothing. He's ain't safe. He's limitless. He's beyond being beyond. Right. And there's nothing. So therefore, what's his relationship with his divine intelligence? Infinitely removed from it. Got that? What's the point? Hmm? Tomorrow you'll find out. Tomorrow you'll find out. All right. Any questions?
So let's see if someone there.
No, go ahead.
If we're trying to use like understanding our own sort of 5 different layers of degrees, yeah, degrees
Yes.
in our attributes or whatever, and we're trying to use that as like a compare as sort of a means to understanding God. Would it be fair to say that just like God's essence is infinitely beyond any sort of uh infinite beyond comparison to his divine intellect, that so is our intellect I mean, our correct, like our intellect is infinitely beyond our actions, right? Like that's the parallel that you're making, or does that parallel not hold?
Um, We're beyond intellect, yes,
What? Oh yeah.
right? The soul is beyond intellect. Um, Intellect is a compound of the soul. But yes, the essence of the soul is beyond it. But not in the same way as God is beyond his intelligence. So then why do we say, God's intelligence? Because it emerges from him, but he's not defined by it at all. And he's not defined by it in any sense of it. And then the paradox we'll have tomorrow with that, the complete paradox, which we didn't yet get into. We will.
Wisdom of Silas.
We're talking about it at Silas, yes.
So the top of our degrees is our intellect, and the bottom of God's degrees is his intellect.
Well, it's not, I mean, well, let me give you a metaphor. Hillel Parcher was a great chassid, Mittler Rebbe, some tzedek, and like an amazing, unbelievable individual. But he said, my intelligence compared to Isaac Homler was another chassid. Was even like, says like is like me and a cat. He said, it's not like the difference between me and a cat in intelligence, right? That's the difference between me and him. He's so much greater. Like I'm greater than the cat. He's greater than me in that distance, right? He says, no. He says, he's so much greater that me and a cat are equal before him. In other words, is there a great difference between a cat and a human being's intelligence? And especially Hillel Parcher, who was like half a Rebbe. Yeah, big, huge, right? But no. He said, no. He's so much that we're both equal. That's our thing to. So the same thing is over here. When we speak about God, his divine intelligence and his capacity to do, right? By us, it's 5 degrees of distinction. The doing and the intelligence are the same thing.
Relative to him.
Relative to his essence. That's how beyond he is from intelligence. Divine intelligence is a creation of God. Or emerges from God. I don't know if creation is not the right word, but it emerges from God.
Not a component of God.
It's not a component of God. By us, it's a component of us. By God, it's not a component of him. That will be tomorrow's class. We'll understand that. We didn't really touch that right now. So we have something that is kind of funny over here. On the one hand, we say God is wise, God is kind, but we just said that he's infinitely removed from it. So yet we call him that, right? So why? Because it does emerge from him. It does emanate from him. It is from him, but he's still infinitely removed from it. He's still infinitely removed from it. Which that's a hard thing to, right? The only way we can understand that is the 5 degrees of separation between my intelligence and my power of action. My power of action is so limiting, simple, skill of my soul compared to the skill of speech is so much greater compared to the skill of thinking, not just random thoughts, but thinking, compared to the emotions of the soul, compared to the intelligence of the soul. 5 degrees of separate, that we get. God is infinitely more removed than that. But at least we have something that we can relate to in us that we can now appreciate of God. and get some idea of it the way it is in the divine order of things. Okay. Now by us, it'll be a compound as opposed with God. We'll see tomorrow with how we understand paradox.
But the degree of the
So,
infinite,
go ahead.
the degree of the infinite
Separation.
separation between the Ein Sof and his intellect is so much greater, right, than the degree of our
That's it,
separation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Ours is only 5 degrees. The infinite is a little more than that.
Yeah.
Patricia, infinitely removed. Does that include infinitely connected? Well, will be tomorrow. Okay. That will be tomorrow. Tomorrow's class. Now I am going to the Ohel tomorrow. And I land probably after this class, the time of this class. So we'll do the class probably a bit later tomorrow. I'll let you know. Everybody should write into the Ohel themselves. Last night's class, you're all adults now, right? So there will be a class tomorrow, but when I land, I can't give it when I'm flying. No, I'm landing around 9:30, quarter to 10. But till I get out, till you get out, there'll be more like 10 o'clock probably. Okay. No problem. There's no problems.
Air Canada flight 770.
Yeah. All right, folks. Rambam is coming up.
Okay, welcome, folks.
Thank you. And don't forget to write into the Rebbe yourself. Rebbe at Ohel Chabad.